Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you. June 16th, 2025. I have all your stories for your rush hour ride to work. And are you guys as food hungover as I am? What is it about Father's Day that makes me binge? Like cookies don't count on Father's Day, right? Well, I want to thank everyone for the Father's Day wishes. This was my second Father's Day, as I've got a 13-month-old, and I got to tell you, I've learned a lot. Now, being a dad, I've got a lot of like Costco supplies. I now own a catering tent. I have a shop vacuum that cleans up all of the balloons from the water balloon toss we had. I started a great tradition. I had a party, and all the dads there, I let the sons and daughters of the dads all get to throw one water balloon at their dad. And we had some dads that were a dad for 50 years, some older guys, right? And then there are adult kids are throwing water balloons left and right. The babies I thought it was a great time. So if there's a visual for you, right? If I'm looking like I'm having a good hair day, it's because I got a lot of water balloons thrown at this Maine. All right. Well, on today's episode, we will discuss the national anthem and how it relates to the ICE protests. Also, some information in the entertainment world on the Taylor Swift evidence in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni case. Why hasn't it been brought in? Were they bluffing? Could they actually have been bluffing? We'll get into that, plus the sad, tragic shooting that happened in Minnesota over the weekend and this sort of idea that's been trending about World War III. Are we possibly getting into it? There's actually some questions about why there's so much air activity happening, that being flights on the radar heading east, which is not a good sign. And I'm not here to fearmonger. It's just a conversation happening as tensions escalate and Israel and Iran exchange missiles, lots going on to get into. It's some heavy stuff. I'm going to try to give it to you as best as I can. And then some information on the No Kings protest, which was, I guess, considered one of the biggest protests of all time. They say 5 million people turned out, that being on the day that Trump was having his birthday party and also the military parade. So a little about everything today. We're going to get into all these stories and more. It all happens right now on The Rush. Here's an interesting one to start the day. Some patriotism. Singer Neza was told that she couldn't sing the Star Spangled Banner at her LA. She was performing the Star Spangled Banner at the LA Dodgers Stadium. So here's the moment she was told she can't sing it. She actually did it anyway, and then got banned from Dodger Stadium. Have a listen.
Okay, we are going to do the song in English today, so I'm not sure if that wasn't or if that wasn't relayed.
So she was told, hey, listen, you can't sing the song in Spanish. You have to sing it in English. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but we don't have a national language in our country. Obviously, more people speak English, but there's also plenty of other cultures. It's a melting pot. So she sings it in Spanish, even if they told her not to. And, look, my guess is there's going to be people that are like, no, you can't do that, blah, 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 consequences, whatever. But I also think it's really cool here. Los Angeles has a ton of Hispanic population. It's sort of like part of the fabric of the city, really. Southern California, really, it's just like, it's part of the culture. What else can you say? And of course, with the protests going on this weekend, it was really a big moment to take a stand and say, even though you're telling me not to, I'm going to do it anyway. They always say it's better to apologize than ask permission. It seems like she tried to do both. Here's what she had to say.
All right, bear with me because I'm still very shooken up and emotional, and Anyways, I just got home from singing the national anthem in Spanish at the Dodgers game, and it is the official Star Spangled Banner in Spanish. You can Google it. I'll just read it to you really quick, but it was officially commissioned in 1945 by the U.S. State Department as a part of President Franklin Roosevelt's Good Neighbor policy to foster a better relationship with Latin America. Because of this, I didn't think I would be met with any sort of no, especially because we're in L.A.
Like a good neighbor, the Spanish national anthem is there.
And with everything happening. And I've sang the national anthem many times in my life, but there was today out of all days, I could not. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just could not believe when she walked in and told me no. But I just felt like I needed to do it. Para mi gente. For anyone who's been following me for a while, you know, everything I do is out of love, good energy out of love, and I'm proud of myself for doing that today.
And good for her. And of course, she was banned. But here's the thing. And protest comes in different shapes and sizes, right? We have different avenues that we can protest. And if she feels like the sort of deportations that ICE is committing, if she feels like this is something that she needs to speak out on, what better stage than to do it in front of a stadium full of people? And more so, not just that stadium, but the idea that they would ban her after doing that. She says, look, she said the president, declared a Spanish version. We have a Spanish audience. Why the hell not? She wasn't singing the Mexican national anthem. It was the national anthem of the United States of America. So, but I think it's interesting, though, because how it normally works, I've got some friends who sing the national anthem at different venues. And again, I don't know if this is the way it is at Dodger Stadium, but there'll be somebody who's the director of performances. They'll hire the national anthem singer. Maybe there'll be some other, pre-game bands that they play in the venue. And they're kind of like the talent director. It's probably a part-time job, really. And, they'll be the ones to line up and look at people's demo reels and who's got this. And, they performed at the football stadium, so we'll have them here. Oh, line them up. Or it's like, put them in a double A so they get comfortable doing it. And then when they're ready for the pros, they'll come in. So it's like, it's probably someone who, didn't get permission to let her sing it in Spanish. And then so they were like, hey, we can't have you do that. But my guess is when the upper brass for the LA Dodgers find out that the singer was banned, my guess is they'll probably release a statement and reverse the ban. That's my thought, because I just don't feel like it's a hill worth dying on, especially when you sell a lot of tickets to your Mexican American friends out there. So I wanted to get into, we have a lot to get into today, but before we get into the heavier news, we've got the tragic shooting that happened over the weekend, which, is very symbolic because it was politically motivated. Before we get into all of that and the other wars going on, let's jump into the Baldoni, Blake Lively stuff, because it could be, it's hard to look forward and know the timeline of what the judge is going to have going on with his rulings, ruling on the different motions and things like that. Discovery is about to take place. But we are picking up some information that came out of the Brian Friedman interview that Megyn Kelly did, and lots of questions about Taylor Swift. Because one thing that I've seen going on in the last months as we've been covering this case, really half a year now, is that Brian Friedman's kind of had this smirk about him, like he's got a trick up his sleeve. This interview he does with Megyn Kelly, I don't see that happening. And I don't have a motivation for sharing my intuition here, but this doesn't feel like a good thing for his case. Have a listen.
Are you able to say whether you believe or have reason to allege that Blake Lively threatened Taylor Swift if she did not come out and speak on Blake's behalf?
The truth is, I don't think I should speak on it. I think we should wait and see, how the evidence, ferrets out on that. I think, look, I think we've all, those who have looked at the timeline, those who have looked at all of the documents that have been put forth. There's more video evidence. There's video of this is a film shoot, right? Like there's filming of the film shoot, right? Megan, you saw the scene, where they're dancing, and everyone can judge for themselves. Again, we're dealing with people who look at a scene and say, the sky is not blue.
Now, I don't disagree with him. When you look at that slow dance scene, clearly Blake Lively's claims are not what she, whatever she accused him of clearly doesn't live up to that when you watch the video. But she asked about Taylor Swift here. She asked about this idea that Taylor Swift's father, was accusing Blake Lively of extortion. And now And now Brian Friedman's essentially saying, I don't think the judge is going to let us bring that in, which may be true, but we went from having like some pretty bombshell press that went through. And again, I still stand by my thought that if it was completely fabricated, Taylor Swift would have spoken out. She wouldn't let her dad fall on the sword for her if he was lying about things. I guess people are thinking, well, maybe Taylor Swift doesn't want any of this information to come out, not because it's not true, but because Blake Lively might weaponize what Blake has against her. And maybe Blake has a lot on Taylor Swift. I mean, imagine if you had a best friend turn on you. Maybe they're making, I mean, honestly, my guess is they're probably making jokes that would look horrible for the public to see, not about Baldoni, but just about anybody, really. The dirt on their exes. There's so many celebrities they must know that, that's my guess. But for Brian Friedman to sort of immediately sort of deflect away from that makes me feel like nothing's coming out. Unless he's completely just, waiting to drop a bombshell on people. I don't know.
I mean, that blue's not blue.
Right.
And I think that will forever be the case. But, fortunately, she doesn't get to be a juror along with being, the plaintiff. So we'll have different people that'll be the jurors, and hopefully they'll be able to see the skies blue.
Well, the skies were blue over the weekend. Actually, it was very rainy if you're living where I live in Nashville. Bonnaroo was canceled. They canceled the music festival. It rained so much where I live. But I guess the weather prevailed in D.C. They had the Trump's birthday military parade bonanza. Well, here's the moment where Fox News, I guess they went to get some reporting from someone that was there, and they were completely bombed. They're denying being drunk. Do you think this person's drunk? Have a listen.
Now is former Defense Intel Agency officer Rebecca Koffler. Rebecca, what are your thoughts tonight on the incredible symbolism and the messaging that we saw here tonight from the Commander-in-Chief on the Army's 250th birthday?
I am so excited, Emily and Lucas Tomlinson. Everybody, this is incredible. Finally, the United States is back. I want to really thank all of our Army, Navy, and Air Force officers who have been sacrificing their lives. Literally, their families have been contributing to the mission. Most of the time for the past quarter of a century, because of the mismanagement of the administrative states, they've been fighting these foreign wars. But with our new in chief, Donald J. Trump, they are prioritizing America first. And I want to thank these officers for all of these sacrifices and all of the hardships that their families have been doing. Lawrence Jones, you are doing, you're rocking, man. You guys are incredible. Lucas,
thank you.
I want to thank.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you, and thank you for your service too.
There it is. They go, we're up against the break. Thank you for your service. Well, I mean, service. Thank you to the servers who served her so many margaritas. I guess she's denying that she was drunk. Let me see if I have a quote from her. In the post, she added a photo of a bottle of champagne and said she planned to refill her glass before her appearance. So she says, the propagandist came for me, aiming to silence me as I speak the truth. No, you just sounded drunk. I don't know, maybe she wasn't. Allegations against me related to my Fox News appearance, Trump parade, are false. All right, so that's what she sounds like sober. I hate to hear what she sounds like with a good old-fashioned daiquiri. All right, so it was a tragic moment this weekend. I'll be honest, I didn't say this on the podcast because I didn't want to sound so cryptic, but on Friday I told my wife, I said, someone's going to die this weekend. Now, of course, a country of 300 plus million people die every day. That's, of course, just what's going to happen. But I said there's going to be millions of people attending protests, and I thought of the worst. I thought that there would be some sort of militia clash or police shooting, who knows? Just so, and we had something a little bit different, but equally as sad. And that's an assassin There was an assassin on the loose. They have caught the guy. So I'm going to get into the breaking news of them catching him. But he posed as a police officer and he assassinated the Speaker of the House in Minnesota and her husband. And then he attempted to assassinate 2 others. I'm sure you heard about it. He actually texted his roommate, "I'm going to be gone for a while." Here he is on the left and his roommate on the right. Best friend and roommate of suspected Minnesota gunman Vance Bolter says he received a haunting message from Bolter hours after Saturday's shocking shooting spree that left 2 dead and 2 others wounded. David Carlson told Minnesota news station KARE that around 6 a.m. Saturday, shortly after former Democratic state rep Melissa Hortman and her husband were found shot to death, and Senator John Hoffman and his wife were injured in another shooting, Bolter sent him and another friend a disturbing farewell text. I've got a clip of that. The FBI was offering a $50,000 reward looking for his arrest. I mean, he slipped away from them, but they have captured him. I'll have that for you guys in a second. Trump said he may call Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, after Minnesota shootings, but called him grossly incompetent. President condemned the violence as horrific. Now, here's what annoys me about this, calling Tim Walz incompetent. First of all, Minnesota is a great state, and there's like sort of bipartisan people working together. They got different bills passed where they've got, school breakfast and lunch that's free for students who need it. I mean, it's like, can't we all agree on certain things? Like, we've all got kids or friends have kids, and to think that there might be some kids that don't have a meal in the morning because the family's, living in poverty, and, to pass bills like that, that's just a good thing. He, has all these other, accomplishments that happened. And this was a guy that, kind of came out of nowhere as a former teacher and did well. And he was just like, they smear him as this, they call him Tampon Tim. They say he puts tampons in the boys' locker rooms. It's completely false. It's completely false. He had programs they put together and signed bills so that they could put tampons and other hygienic products in high schools, across the state, like doing things that are good things for the people. He's actually, and again, not everyone might like him. No one's got a perfect, 100% rating by everybody, but he seems to be a beloved governor. And, the weekend of the shooting, to say that he's grossly incompetent, I just don't understand. But I'm not surprised with that sort of rhetoric. That's the type of rhetoric that leads to shootings in the first place. Here's the roommate of the Minnesota shooting suspect reading the last text that he got from his best friend.
So I just want to let you know that I love you guys both, and I wish it hadn't gone this way. I don't want to say anything more and implicate you in any way, because you guys don't know anything about this. But I love you guys, and I'm sorry for all the trouble this has caused. He was a loving, caring guy, loved his family, loved his friends, and loved God, and I don't know why he did what he did. It's not Vance. No one will believe this. No one that grew up. He had lots of friends, trust me.
I believe this guy, that he is shocked that this happened. He said he had friends, people. Yeah, that's the problem, right? Is that there's certain hateful people out there, obviously with mental illness or whatever the heck's going on, where they're fine if you're their friend, but if you look different or if you have a different voting record than them, you're some sort of enemy that needs to be, taken care of. And it's that rhetoric. And again, it has happened on the left. It's also happening on the right, where you have this extreme sort of view of intolerance towards people that vote differently than you do. But immediately after this shooting happened, people wanted to kind of like push blame on the other side. So they were like, oh, he must have been a Democrat. And then it's like they get confirmation, no, that's not true. He voted for Trump. And it shouldn't change the way we view these tragedies, but the jockeying for who's to blame is just so not the sort of the conversation we need to have after this happens.
We even asked about Mr. Bolter's political affiliations, and David Carlson, once again his roommate and best friend, known him since fourth grade, did say Bolter voted for Trump and that he was a strong supporter, but he hasn't really talked about politics lately. And from what his friend knew, he had no idea that Bolter was interested at all in local or state lawmakers as well. His friend didn't even know the names of the lawmakers who were attacked today.
I think it actually proves the point that when people are radicalized, they're just like too deep in the system. So some might question, well, they say that he voted for Trump, but how do we believe that? And again, well, here's his roommate, which, by the way, I find it a little bit bizarre that these two adult roommates, friends since fourth grade. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to hate on their little buddy comedy thing they have going on here, but here's the friend giving the people the information they want, because it's like, look, he committed this political killing. What from what team is he on? Obviously, it's one of those things that's like, log it, not the most important part of the conversation.
He voted for Trump. So there we go now.
Would you describe him as a strong supporter of the president? Or?
Yeah, he was a strong supporter, but like I said, it's hardly ever talking about foreign policy.
So there's a question. He says, he voted for Trump. Was he a strong supporter? He said he's a strong supporter. So there you go, folks. Here's the image of the suspect in the shooting of the Minnesota lawmakers.
Police say Belter impersonated a police officer and drove this SUV designed like a squad car. The FBI posting a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of Belter. Surveillance video shared by authorities captured the suspect wearing a cowboy hat and long coat hours after the shooting. Two people familiar with the investigation tell NBC News the shooter left behind a list, quote, several dozen names long that, quote, includes politicians and non-politicians. President Trump condemning the, quote, targeted attack in a post, writing, quote, such horrific violence will not be tolerated.
I would hope not. Now, how did his buddy, the roommate, not know that he had a car that was, had all the police gadgets on it? Did that not, pique his interest at all? Here's the moment that they found out, the breaking news. Governor Tim Walz shares that he was captured. Because I should say this, they canceled the protests in Minnesota on Saturday because they said, listen, this is an active shooter. So they wanted people to kind of, I guess, shelter in place, even though there were thousands of protests again all over the country. Here it is.
Good evening. After a two-day manhunt, 2 sleepless nights, law enforcement have apprehended Vance Bolter. That's 48 hours that law enforcement involved in a complex and dangerous manhunt. Spent Father's Day away from their families to deliver justice for Melissa and Mark Hortman and their children who spent this Father's Day alone. To the law enforcement who stand here and the hundreds who are involved in this, the state of Minnesota owes you a deep debt of gratitude. Thank you. You ran towards the danger and you served the state of Minnesota.
I did want to give a big shout out, actually correct the number. I said 5 million, but I guess the number they're reporting is 12 million or so people attended these protests. And they say they were massive, historic turnout across the country and massive cities. There was a shooting in Salt Lake. I don't have the details on that. And there was actually a very bizarre moment. And again, more information may come out. I don't believe there was any coordinated effort here, but there was this very bizarre moment as a man was detained during protests for impersonating a police officer and carrying a whole vest of ammo. This, of course, took place hours after the shooting that took place in Minnesota. There was also other video of people who attended some of the protests that were carrying weapons. In some states, you can do that, and some people were kind of operating under this thought, like, are they trying to do this vigilante justice? But fingers crossed, no other major stories coming out as far as I know. It was a peaceful protest. Millions of Americans came together to protest the government and said, this is not what we stand for. This is not right. This is not the direction we want to go in. One of the, reasons people are protesting is they don't want to go into another senseless war. And we have been covering this pretty wild story here. This is the reporting from Real News No Bullshit. on Instagram. Really interesting air activity in the United States right now. A shitload of tankers, which are 16 of them air refuelers, heading east towards the Atlantic. Now, I'm no expert. I have no idea if this is as interesting as this map makes it look like, but the idea being is that they are, preparing to head closer to the war zone, and the U.S. Kind of getting very, very close to entering this Iran-Israel war that's taking place right now. Of course, in the last week, things have really escalated. Let's go to a couple of clips as Israel and Iran have exchanged missile fire. Tel Aviv and other Israeli cities, a lot of innocent lives being affected by this right now, and it's a real tragedy that this is playing out.
Toll continues to rise overnight after a series of Iranian missile and drone strikes hit Israel. A residential building in the Palestinian-Israeli town of Tamra suffered a direct hit, according to Israel's National Emergency Service, killing at least 3 women and a 13-year-old girl. A later wave of strikes hit buildings in a residential area of central Israel. A 10-year-old boy was among the several killed. Rescue workers are searching the scene for those unaccounted for.
And again, it's, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of like who started it. Israel claims Iran was getting close to having a nuclear weapon, and other people claim no, they weren't. Israel was searching for victims under the rubble after these deadly strikes, and it's only going to escalate as far as we know.
Now, this is probably the impact that woke me up last night. Just look at this behind me. This is a 10-story building here in Bat Yam, south of Tel Aviv. You can see just buildings all around with their windows blown out. The destruction is comprehensive.
So as I said before, with regard to the other wars going on in the Middle East, I'll say it again. I said it with Ukraine. It's a tragedy for the innocent lives to think that these borders could lead to these wars by these men, these sort of dick measuring contests they have, these sort of never ending wars that are going on. And to think that the U.S. is very quickly being sucked into this war. Donald Trump said the U.S. had nothing to do with the attack on Iran tonight, this over the weekend. And if we are attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. armed forces will come down on you at levels never seen before. However, we can easily get a deal done between Israel and Iran and end this bloody conflict. Now, a deal's not going to happen. Trump actually said the people he was negotiating with for a deal in Iran have all been killed by Israel in their attacks. Whether the U.S. was involved in that or gave permission to that, really yet to be seen. A lot of people just don't have trust in what they're being told, and folks really don't know. I mean, but one thing's for sure, this idea that we're going to kind of reinvest in our country and get rid of the debt and take care of each other. I mean, we're just not seeing it play out. This is something, regardless of political party, we speak on. We want to live in a world where our money goes to healthcare, to, taking care of our families, to not being in debt, to being able to afford college, to being able to, afford food to eat before you go to class. This is what people want, not, wars that are on other sides of the planet. And we just don't need to be a part of it. Period. Now you might say, well, Dave, what about, all of the issues of us giving money to the, different, countries that are defending themselves? Look, I get it. It's one thing to help countries out there getting invaded. It's another to have our country's name on the bombs that are affecting and killing so many innocent lives. Enough is enough. Knock it off, as it were. All right, well, there's your update this morning. We'll probably have a pretty busy week. I'm going to be in New York for shows starting on Thursday. So do me a favor, go to my website, link in the description if you want to find out where I'll be performing. I'm going to send it to my newsletter. You can sign up for that, therushhourwithdave.com. I'll have a link if you click on that and sign up for the newsletter where you can find out where I'll be. Come out, laugh. Hopefully, God knows we need it. And we'll talk to you this afternoon. We'll see you then. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.